Hello everybody and welcome to a spotlight on Neko Ghost Jump. Neko Ghost Jump? I don't know. I don't speak Japanese, unlike everybody else on the internet. This is a very interesting mix between a 2D and 3D platforming puzzle game. I haven't played anything on World 2 so far, which is a Jungle Lands. I'll just go ahead and play. Let's see how this goes, and otherwise we can always go back to the first world. So, first and foremost, you'll notice that that's not very good for me, is it? That the graphics actually don't look that bad. It's kind of like a cutesy type of art style. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. The other thing you'll immediately be able to tell with me failing this much is every single time you die, you get booted into this menu. And I don't know if I'm just bad at the game or if this is an actual issue, but I end up dying quite a lot. So I'd rather have just I have a start menu, right? So just immediately instant restart me into the level. That might be an issue with the timer, I don't know. But the main gimmick of the game is, as you can see, I can clearly not make this jump, even with the boost I can have, because you have a normal jump, then you have a dash. You can use the dash mid-air, but if you actually dash when you jump, you actually jump ridiculously far. As you can see, I just jumped off the island, because why not? The main gimmick of the game is, though, when you press the button, you go into 3D mode, at which point you can see there's an island there, lower down, which gets obstructed by the higher island in 2D mode. So I can just jump over to this one and then make my way up top. And now I can switch back to 2D mode, and there we go. But that's not the only gimmick, because why would it be? Why would you only have one gimmick in a game? We also have a ghost dimension gimmick, where you can't actually attack anything as your normal cat. So what you want to do is you want to go into ghost mode, in this case also into 3D mode, and then you can actually start attacking the enemies all around. The little cat faces you see up in the top left, those are your health points. And they actually deplete fairly quickly. I'll get to the physics in a moment. They actually deplete fairly quickly when you are fighting an enemy. And this enemy has 3 hit points, so it might actually be a better way of showing. Maybe I was just very bad before and it's not as bad as I'm giving it credit for. Never mind. So the next thing is the physics of the game. I don't particularly enjoy them that much. In 2D, it's not that big of a deal. It's a little slippery and a little floaty, but it's not horrible, right? And then you've also got these things, which apparently only work in 3D. Oh no, this is just a button. Okay, so what you want to do is probably just press the button, wait for a second, and then really quickly switch to 3D. So yeah, in 3D, as you can see, the platforming becomes near impossible because things are just slippery. You slide off blocks. It's really difficult to land jumps. I feel like more often than not, you're not actually supposed to do the actual platforming in 3D. It's more like you maneuver around the obstacles and the islands in 3D, and then you do the actual platforming in 2D. Because, as you can see, I'm in the middle of nowhere here. So I feel like that is how you're expected to do it. I would very much like the 3D physics to work just a little bit better. In this specific case, I can't even go into 3D or 2D because when I would, I'd be inside a wall. It doesn't want you to do that for what I think a fairly obvious reason. So in this case, you definitely do need to do the platforming in 3D environments, which, again, it's not particularly good when you do the platforming in the 3D environment. I'm not going to say it's necessarily the worst thing ever, but it's close. It's definitely close. It's not a good 3D platforming experience. I do think this game gets a little bit of a pass because it does a very unique and fun kind of thing. Not that this has never been done before. I mean, Paper Mario would like to have a word with you. But that wasn't really a platforming game. As much as it tried to be, it was still mainly an RPG. This is definitely a puzzle platforming game. The downside to that being is obviously... I'm skipping these enemies, I'll get to that in a moment. The downside to that being is that if this is a game more focused on platforming, obviously, you expect the platforming to work a little bit better, which honestly it doesn't. It is still in development, it's still in early access and also available to back on Kickstarter. So these are potentially things that could be fixed and really, in my opinion, do need to be fixed before this game ships as a full release, because this is not a game in a final playable state. It is a very interesting promise with very interesting mechanic and gimmick to it, but it's got a lot of work to do on this game here. So, damn it. Okay, so what you want to do there, that is a really, really tricky jump, which I've been failing consistently since starting this video. You want to jump onto... Let's just get that health. I didn't even get any damage, so it doesn't do anything. What you want to do there... You see, that jump, I should have just been able to make that first time, because it just clips through a little bit weird and it slides off rounded edges, and that's another thing. Sometimes you're in the flow of things and you switch perspectives mid-air. Obviously, if you switch from 2D to 3D in mid-air, it's not going to know where to put you. If you're on a block, it'll always put you on the depth value of that specific block. But if you're in mid-air, it just kind of assumes and sometimes misplaces you. So you never really want to switch into 3D when you're in mid-air. Switching into 2D in mid-air, you don't really want to do that either, just because it's disorienting, but it's not as big of a deal, right? Switching into 3D in mid-air is just instant death, like 99 out of 100 times. You don't want to do that. The downside being is that is a complaint I have about the game, but it's not really something you can fix, because it's always going to be an issue. That is the whole thing about adding an entirely new dimension. If you can just switch or like add an entire dimension, an entire spatial dimension, for fuck's sake, with the press of a button, you're going to need to put that character somewhere. You're going to need to give it some depth value, right? And if you do it in mid-air, there's really no good way of making sure that it doesn't kill you. Unless you have like a check where you always make sure there's a block beneath you, and it would get very complicated very quickly, and I don't even necessarily think it would work all that well. So that might just be something you have to take for granted, is you don't switch into 3D when you're in mid-air. But again, it's something you really do have to get used to, because this game has more of a focus on platforming than, for instance, Paper Mario, which definitely is an inspiration for this game. So these platforming-based issues become more apparent through this game. And then you also find out there's not really an easy solution to fix this issue. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. And the other downside I mentioned before, or wanted to mention before at any rate, is if you're doing this, if you're speedrunning this, which is definitely a thing the game encourages you to do, due to, you see, leaderboards, and you get a medal which you need to, well, a pole, but let's call it medals for a moment here, which you need to move on to newer levels. One of those you get for, it actually shows, earned by beating a speedrun time, so going quickly and getting a certain amount of time coins. Time coins take off time from your total time. Collecting all the coins in the environment, that's a bit more collectathon, and defeating all enemies. Those are 3 pulls you can get in every single level. So the game does encourage you to go through quickly, but if you go through quickly, the chances of you hitting the switch button just literally a couple of frames before hitting a block increase by quite a bit. And as a result of that, that issue does become a lot more apparent, which is kind of like just ruining your own. Let me think if I remember what I was supposed to do. It's kind of like ruining your own gimmick, right? And you don't really want to do that. And again, I don't know if I just suck at the game or if the game really could benefit from an instant reload, because you've seen that death screen so many times at this point, and it's not just because I'm doing commentary for once. Usually that would be my excuse. I'm doing commentary, and that's why I'm doing very, very poorly. But when I wasn't doing commentary, I also was losing quite a lot of... well, you don't have lives necessarily, but I was dying quite a lot. So I do feel like... What does this button do? Okay, that opens that gate. Then what does this button do? That also opens that gate. So why do I even need the first button? Huh. Sometimes you just panic press the switch button as well. that is a me thing. I am fully aware that is a thing that is mostly probably on me. So I think the basic idea of the game is clear to you all. So I'm going to back out of this level right now. There is also customizability for your character. I, however, want to go back to the Grasslands because these are your tutorial levels, and we can go through them really quickly so that I can show you a little bit on an easier basis what this game is about. So this is just a jumping tutorial with increasingly difficult jumps, and as you could see, I got stuck on some geometry there and just kind of fell into the water. I'm going to do this a lot quicker than the game expects you to, because I obviously already know mechanics you're not supposed to know while playing this, which means I also overshoot a jump that the game doesn't expect you to be able to overshoot. I think I already got all 3 pulls for this level anyway, so I don't really need to complete it quickly. But now I've set the challenge for myself, so I kinda need to. And there I could save myself because I got stuck on some geometry for the level. So it's not all bad, but it definitely could do with a bit better. I don't know what constitutes the speedrun time. It doesn't show you, it doesn't tell you. You just need to keep going at it until you get that pull, I guess. It doesn't really show you how quick you need to be in order to get that specific pull. And as a result, I've got none of those pulls. So this is a very easy way to show you. You can't get through this wall, but then you go into 3D and there's a little hole here and you can get through. It's as easy as that, but obviously the execution becomes a lot more difficult. Same here. You can climb up this in 3D, then go here into 2D, into that block that you could not reach in 3D, and then jump into the water. Let's go back to the levels. I think you guys get the idea of the mechanics here. So let's actually go to the boss fight for the first wall, because I was a little bit annoyed with most of this game until I got to this first boss fight, because the boss fight actually... there's also those special coins. The boss fight actually does something really interesting. I don't know about any boss fights after this, obviously, because I've only done this one. But this boss fight actually takes advantage of the 2D, 3D nature of the game. Meaning that you need to attack those plants with your ghost avatar. But if I go into my ghost avatar, my body will get hit by the things going on the ground. So what you want to do is you want to go into 2D here, wait for them to go down, then raise back up, go into ghost mode, so that you can actually have your body be in a safe position. I think that is a really clever boss design idea. And I honestly do hope that the rest of the game has bosses of similar quality in design, because I do think that this is really, really well done. And I've done this boss fight like twice before, so I'll probably speed through this a little bit, which is a good thing because I obviously don't want to get stuck with this boss fight for literally forever. But this is only the first phase. The second phase actually incorporates some platforming, which in a way is a good thing because this is a platforming game, and in a way is maybe not a particularly great thing because the platforming in this game is kinda janky, to put it mildly. So you also have to switch to the 3D here in this platforming, and as I stated before, the platforming in this game is kinda wanky, janky. Which makes this particular portion of this fight a little bit annoying to deal with because you are also on a timer in order to hit the enemy, because after so many seconds, the enemy resets you. In this case, I think there might be a difference in jumping physics slightly between Ghost Mouse and... Okay, that hasn't happened to me before. Or Ghost Cat and Normal Cat, I think, maybe, a little bit, I don't know for sure. But I feel like there's a slight difference in their physics, but that might just be me placeboing and this game just being, again, janky in general, so it's really difficult to tell, and maybe that's just something I came up with in frustration. Let's hit him a couple more times. Okay, so one more time, and I should be fine. Really, you want to get a layout where you can do most of the platforming in 2D. As you can see, I was going through that pretty much as quickly as you realistically can, or I realistically can at any rate. And I'm just falling off these blocks. And I'm honestly, it is a little bit bullshit. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a little bullshit that the game expects you to do platforming while the physics engine is a little bit fucked. And then the last phase of this fight is nothing special, honestly. You just murder all of these little enemies first. You don't even have to, technically speaking, and then you just go up to the boss fights, and there you go. That is the first boss fight of this game, and I think with that, I have shown you pretty much a good view of... I don't understand why I don't even get any pause for this one, because I clearly defeated all of the enemies in this stage. It's a little bit weird. I think with that, we've given you a decent impression of this game. There's a link to the Steam page down below in the description if you want to check out the game for yourself. Until the next time, I've been Vlogger, you've been awesome. This has been a really weird game. Honestly, I like the gimmick, okay? I like the gimmick, I just want the gimmick to be implemented in a game that feels a little bit more satisfying and smooth to play. And hopefully, as development on this game goes on, this game will evolve into that. I'll see you all back next time. Bye.